welcome to Monday Morning Manna. We're so glad to be joining you in the comfort of your home or in your car while you're traveling to work or even at your office. We know that Monday can be a challenging time, the starting of a week, so we wanted to come and bring you an inspired word on Monday morning. Today we're going to 1 Corinthians, the 30th chapter, verse 1 through 8. I believe God's got a powerful word in store for you this morning. And it reads, Now it happened when David and his men came home to Ziklag. On the third day, they found that the Amalekites had made a raid on the south country and on Ziklag, and had overthrown Ziklag and burned their city with fire. And they had taken captive the women who were there and all that was with them, both small and great. They killed no one, but they carried them all away to be used as slaves, and went on their way. When David and his men came to the town, they found it burned, and their wives and their sons and their daughters had been taken captive. Can you imagine? Then David and the people who were with him, his army, they raised their voices, and grown men wept until they were too exhausted to weep any longer. Now David's two wives had been captured. Further, David was greatly distressed because the people spoke of stoning him, for all of them were embittered, each man for his sons and daughters. They longed for their families. But David felt strength and encouraged in the Lord his God. David said to Abiathar the priest, Amalek's son, please bring me the ephod. So Abiathar brought him the ephod. David inquired of the Lord, saying, Shall I pursue this band of raiders? Will I overtake them? And God answered him, Pursue, for you will certainly overtake them, and you will certainly rescue the captive. Many of us can associate with David, this great loss. Many of us are feeling great loss now, and as I said, we've lost our businesses, and seem like there's just no answer or any relief instantly coming. But I want you to know that we can relate to this story today, because David and his men who were with him, their family had been captured. Their possessions have been taken. Their cities burned. Losing everything one has or considered valuable is a bitter pill to swallow. I have lived long enough to realize what has been taken a lifetime to build can disappear in an instant or be ruined in a second, leaving one to contemplate the reason or rationale of the moment. It leaves us asking questions like, how could this happen to me? What is the root cause? Or who is to blame? If we're totally honest this morning, each and every one of us have experienced a significant loss of something or someone in our lifetime. Loss is to be deprived of something or to have something that exists to cease to exist. A loss oftentimes leaves us feeling some kind of way. A life lost by societal standards can be devastating. Many times we're embarrassed, hurt, and uncertain of the future. There are many who feel losing is never an option, that we must win at all costs. However, in life, I have come to know that if you live long enough and fight often enough, eventually you will lose at something. Reason being, we're all human. No matter how talented, good-looking, or intelligent we may be, we're all flawed and possess faults. Each and every one of us have some undesirable features or characteristics. Perhaps you have a big head that's too big for your body. Some of us have buck teeth, and in school we used to tease girls about having crossed eyes. Or your leg might be shorter one than the other. Or some of you might be tongue-tied. You might have bad-smelling breath or stinky feet. If you don't see any physical flaw, perhaps you should review your nasty, stinky attitude or self-absorbed self. None there are far worse things than losing. David had never lost a battle. Matter of fact, he had just returned victorious from battle to discover what he cherished most in life was gone. People of God, I just want to warn you as you're fighting for success, fighting for desirable careers, fighting for power and prestige. Remember, no battle is worth fighting at the expense of your family. The thing I love about God is that he is always fighting for us. Even in our defeat, God is planning our deliverance. He has provided a way of escape in the midst of our circumstances. When one door in life closes, God has already opened a window of opportunity. Opportunity is when the circumstance in our life causes something new to be possible. Opportunities be granted a chance or to be granted access. Opportunities to place in our lives when doors that were shut are suddenly unavailable or opened suddenly. Things that were impossible are now made possible. So this morning, I just want to encourage someone who's been living in a state of limits that God is going to open up the doors to limitlessness. You've barely made ends meet. You've been driving the same old car, living the same old home, and working the same dead-end job. Now the enemy is telling you that this is how your story will end. But I want you to tell somebody this morning, in your office, in your home, wherever you are, God is going to provide an opportunity in the midst of my loss. You see, life has taught me that one man's loss can be another man's gain. And what one man discard, another man will find as his treasure. You can lose and actually win. And that sometime when you win, you actually lose. I know there are some experiences that have left you feeling like a failure. If only you had finished high school. If only you had gone to college. If only you had paid all your bills on time. If only you had not trusted that man. No matter what your circumstances are, God is going to give you another opportunity to do it over. An opportunity to do it better. And an opportunity to do right everything you did wrong. Can I tell you what your problem is this morning? You've been looking at your situation from the wrong perspective. You've been viewing your life through the lens of defeat and disappointment. I'm reminded of a story in the Bible of an impotent man who had been sitting by the pool of Bethesda waiting for someone to put him in troubled water to be healed. He had become at the pool for 38 long years. Every day he left defeated and disappointed, not because he was impotent, but because he had failed to recognize opportunity. He had become so dependent upon man, someone to place him in the water, and only focus on the story of the water, instead of realizing that God's power could heal him anywhere. I'm wondering this morning how many of us have become dependent on another person for the essentials in our lives. Our whole world or reason for existing is dependent upon someone else. That's the reason why folks treat you the way they do, because they recognize the power or influence they have over you. But tell someone this morning you would be important if you weren't always available. Sometimes we make ourselves too available to people. Some of you are so set in your ways, you believe the only reason your miracle can happen or the move of God can happen in your life is when Jesus came by, he asked the man the question, do you wish to be healed? If so, take up your bed and walk. In other words, you've been waiting on opportunity when opportunity has really been waiting on you. You see, you need to understand that prayer is a key and faith unlocks the door. You've been praying for healing. Some of you have been praying for deliverance. And some of you have been praying for opportunity. But you have not exercised your faith. You must realize only faith can unlock the door of opportunity. You need to start believing in impossible because God specializes in impossibility. David's ignorance and arrogance has caused him to lose everything that was dear to him this morning. His ego and ambition for victory at all costs caused him to involve himself in another man's battle. It's sometimes good to keep your nose out of somebody else's business. While he was off fighting a purposeless battle, the Amalekites came in and stole his wife, his children, and all their possessions. They burned everything in their path, leaving David and his men in a state of hopelessness and helplessness with no foreseeable option. It was when David was all out of options, David and his men wept. It is amazing how clear things appear, or it now seems to be important, when you're all out of options. Although hopelessness leaves us feeling frustrated and fearful, it has a tendency to activate our failed safety device. In other words, it has a tendency to send us back looking to God for answers. In our society, in order to preserve life, Every hospital has a generator or backup system that will self-activate during a crisis or natural catastrophe. Therefore, when the power systems fail, the safety system kicks on and preserves life. You see, God knew that we would experience disappointment and failures. He knew that our immaturity, we would make mistakes. Therefore, he devised a plan that when we accepted Jesus Christ in our lives, the Holy Spirit installed a fail-safe device that works off faith, that would self-activate at the event of a crisis in our lives. Therefore, in the midst of tears and anguish, David gathered his composure and sought God for another opportunity. He needed answers to two important questions. Shall I go after them? And if I do, will I be victorious? I know you've been crying over the things you've lost, but stop crying and drop your eyes. For weeping endureth for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. You've been worried, but stop worrying, for you shall reap in due time, if you faint not. I just want to tell you, you shall get through this, for better days are ahead. For what the enemy meant for evil, God is working out for your good. Each failure, each setback, each disappointment has been secured with a backup device. Therefore, no weapon formed against you shall prosper. Every plan of the enemy will only propel you higher and higher. I just want you to understand this morning, I know you're going through some challenges. I know you lost some things. But in the middle of your loss, God will create opportunity. He has already planned a way for your escape. I want you to know that you need to ask God two questions. Shall I go after it? And if I do, will I pursue it? This is not the time to quit. This is not the time to throw in the towel, for the fat lady is not sung. This is a time to activate your faith. It's a time to start your new business. It's a time to regroup and regress and begin to look at the plan that God has for your life. This is the time to go back to school. This is the time to begin your future. For God said this, I know the thoughts I have toward you. They're good thoughts to prosper you and bring you to a place of promise. God already knows our end, and our end is better than our beginning. I just want you to know this morning, I know it's Monday morning, the start of your week, but I want you to know that better days are ahead. God bless you, and we'll see you next Monday.
Hello, friends of Powerhouse. Wanting to support Powerhouse? Here are some ways you can. We have mobile giving. We have text to give. You can also go on our website at www.pwrhouseministries.org. We have Cash App, and you can also mail your donations to 263 West Morgan Street, Marshall, Missouri, 65340. Your donation would help us support those in need of food through our Emergency Food Center and our Daily Food Program. We want to thank you in advance for helping us pour into our community in the time of need.